Hello, welcome to SharePoint JSON formatting training. If you're interested in learning how to code SharePoint JSON formatting templates, this training is for you. This is hands-on training which will take you from the basics to more advanced coding so that you can put together templates to format your SharePoint list data. So if you want to get trained on how to do SharePoint JSON formatting, this is for you. Now, let's get SharePoint smart. Here we are in the training content. This is linked in the description of the video. This is going to be our page where we have all our information and instructions to do our training. So make sure you get that link open in a new tab in your browser so you can follow along. And the very first time you come into training, you're going to want to look at this introduction and resources area. So there are some prerequisites. In order to be able to do JSON formatting in SharePoint, you need to have a good understanding of HTML and CSS. If you don't have any experience with HTML and CSS, you should do training on those topics first. There are links to W3 Schools training on both HTML and CSS if you need to learn about those or if you want to learn more. And the other thing is you're going to need to understand all of the important information about SharePoint lists. So when it comes to creating fields, naming fields, applying list settings, you should have a good understanding of that already. If you need more information on that or want to train, there's a link to a video that will help you there. Additionally, you should know how to apply a column formatting template or a view formatting template. Those also are linked here. So if you don't know any of this information, make sure that you do that first so that you have those basics, because that is required in order to do these training examples. In the resources area, we've got links to important information. These are all the Microsoft pages which define the API for SharePoint JSON formatting. So if you want to dig deep and learn more, everything we're doing in the training comes from this content. This defines how you're able to put together these templates, how you're able to call functions, how you're able to do formatting, and do everything that you need to do in this training. So make sure you keep that handy. Those are the key pages that describe everything that we need to learn. In this training, we're going to be doing formatting on a choice field to set the background color and styling. To do this training, you should have a SharePoint site set up specifically for yourself to do your practice work. I've created a list called projects, and then I've created some dummy records. So if you don't have this already, go ahead and pause the video and make sure you create your practice list and then create some dummy records in it. The next thing is, for this specific training, we're doing a choice field. So we want a choice field. I've called mine status, and that should have 5 choices that are described here. So our choices are not started, in progress, on hold, canceled, and complete. Make sure you have your choice field created in your list and ready to go. And go ahead and take care of that, pause if you need to, and then move on with this content when you're ready. In our instructions, it starts by telling us the HTML that will be created. SharePoint JSON formatting is a set of instructions which tells SharePoint HTML that should be created on the page with the list content. So if I zoom in here, we can kind of see it better. This is just a div with a div inside of it which will hold the field content. So the HTML being created is relatively simple in our case. Now, as a starting point, we always need to have the schema reference. You don't have to memorize this. This is standard. There's generally two main kinds, column formatting or view formatting. In our case, we're doing a view formatting template. I've clicked Copied Editor, and that moves this into a window that you can work on to edit JSON code. So you don't have to remember this schema reference. You can just always begin with this starting point. And we're ready to go on to the next step. In the second step, we're going to add a child div, that is a div inside of the main div. And then we're going to set the text content property using the @currentField token. Well, some of these references may be confusing to you. If you click on these links, it will take you directly over to the Microsoft page, which describes what those things are. So you can get a deeper understanding of why we're using those references. The other thing we need is a style node so that we can apply CSS styling on the element. So just as before, I can expand my code window, and now you can see that I have more content. So we have the original information that we put in the last step, but now there is a children reference, and that's how we can put nested elements in our code. So here's a div inside of that parent div. We've referenced the current field token for text content, and then we have a reference for styling. This may be a little confusing as you're looking at this code for the first time because there's lots of curly braces and nested information, but over time with practice you're going to become very familiar with that. So we've got that set, and now we can go ahead and move on. And with each step, you can copy to the editor. I recommend that you practice trying to apply code in the code editor window and see how close you can get before looking at the solution, which is shown when you click on Show Code. This introduces an if condition. We can do conditional checks and display different things according to what's going on with the field. So we need to do that in this case because we're going to show a different background color depending on the value in the choice field. So we're going to be using if condition checks, and we're going to be checking that value of the field using that current field token. So we need to cover all those possible choices. Now what we see here is a series of references for the background color according to the value of current field. So if the current field has the value not started, I'm telling it to use a background color of cyan. And then I just put that same instruction again, except now I'm referencing in progress. And if it's in progress, I'm saying orange. Of course, you could reference whichever colors you want. These are HTML named colors that I've inserted in here. You could use hex colors too if that's something you're familiar with. Either one of those would work fine. So it's just the same instruction repeated 5 times, and you can just copy and paste from the example. Below this, we can see we've got the auto margin, which will center our content. So bring the page back down to regular size. And then we've got one final step and we're all done. We need to do some more styling to make this look nice. And it tells you what it's looking for. In the parent div, we want to do some things with the color of the text. We want that font size to be nice and big. We're going to set it to 20 pixel. And then we want the font to be Arial. And we're putting a border on there, and then we're going to make it curved around the edge, and that's done with the border radius property. So in this case, we're just adding extra styling, and you can see that in the code editor. Now the fun thing about this is you can play around with these settings, and that's exactly what you should do. This is just an example starting point for you. And you can make adjustments, and it'll help you understand how you can change the code to make it look exactly the way that you want in your case. I'm going to go ahead and click the green copy button, and I'm going to deploy this to SharePoint. Here's my status field. In order to apply this, I just click on the drop down, column settings, format this column, and then I need to go to advanced mode. SharePoint presents options where it's just going to write the code for you, but it doesn't allow us to do very much customizations. We're limited by that. In advanced mode, I can just paste in my code so that I'm getting exactly what I want. And there is my status styling. Now, if I go into edit this, you're going to see that's also impacting what we see in there as well. One thing about our styling is it's going to automatically adapt according to the settings we have in our template. Now, adapting your code is a big part of this, so you should personalize this according to what you want to do. For example, maybe I don't want to have the curved button around the edge, and I don't even want a border. If I just remove those properties, I can grab that code, which has now been updated, go back to column settings, format the column, and simply replace, and you're going to see now the styling looks different according to what I set. Or if you prefer, you can make adjustments directly in the code window in SharePoint if you're comfortable with that. So maybe I'm adjusting the font size. I want to make it smaller. So if I change that to 16 and hit save, you can see that's going to update real time. Or maybe I want to do a different color in here. So instead of cyan, I could change this to azure. Okay, that's a very light blue. It's hard to see. So you have different ways you can update your code. You can either do that on your own in your text editor, or you can do that in SharePoint, however you wish to do that. That's all there is to this first template. This is the first of many practice templates that you can walk through. So this will help you get going with your SharePoint training. At the bottom of this module, it suggests some things you should try changing. The other thing that you can do is click on this live preview button, which will help you out by giving you a live preview of how this might look. You can try some different theme options, take a look at that, and you can do things like change the text. So if you're looking for some ideas on styling before actually applying your code, that preview window can help you out. All right, so if you made it through there and you applied your code, you've gotten through this first training on SharePoint JSON formatting. The first time working through this, the code syntax can be a little bit intimidating. It's very specific. There's a lot of nesting of information in the curly braces in the JSON code. And if you've ever done any JSON coding, this will be familiar to you. The good thing is you have these working code templates that you can work from. So the best way to learn is to take that working example, make adjustments to it, change the styles, adjust the colors, adjust the font size, make changes to it, and you'll begin to understand how you can manipulate the code to get whatever kind of output you want. I hope you found that useful, and I hope you'll join me for another SharePoint JSON training session again. Good luck.